Ken Smith says I would buy one of Callum. Well, I'm not, Ken. I'm not doing the. You can get little dolls. In fact,
voodoo doll.
You get a doll and 6 pins, little starter kits, and where you could shove the pin in on the store. You could be able to buy all the different YouTubers with a pin set. Starter kit. Right, so you could buy Jason, Josh, Sean, Callum, Dave Kassler.
Sold out.
The fact you're saying that 6 pins is a starter kit, is there like an upgraded kit?
Yeah. Well, you can just
buy, big nail.
You can buy stronger pins. Make sure you sell them with paper instructions. Oh, here's a good one. Anton says he had a contact with an Irish station a few years back, and he was testing on 10 metres with a dummy load. He said he had a nice QSO, and he was 10 watts, and they gave him 5 and 5. Do you know there was a scout group? Obviously, did some testing on a dummy load, and then ran the weekend with this RG58 out to the field to the dummy load. And made a few contacts, right? And I said...
So much for the dummy load.
Yeah, I said to Mike, we'll have to buy some of that RG58 that Peter Walters and Stanton goes on about. Buy some of his RG58, run it into a dummy load and see how many contacts we can get one day.
Corona effect from the end of the antenna and reheating the carbonised corner of the barn.
Yeah, reheating the carbonised. Why? Because during the night, you converted it.
It was glowing along with the dits and da. You could read the Morse by the corner of the barn glowing.
I had the radio set on 100 watts, but I could hear this guy in Trinidad quiet about... He was 5 and 1 on 20 metres, just happily calling CQ. So I thought, I'll put the amplifier on. My Acom 2000, it takes, I don't know, what is it, 120 seconds or something to warm the tubes up, And I just looking at the countdown. Oh, this M7 from Birmingham, I could hear really well. And it sounded like he was he had the mic gain up full and the compression. And his Acom 1000 was really struggling. And it might have been an expert, actually, by the sound of it. Anyway, he got a 5 and 5 off this guy in Trinidad. I'm concentrating on the Acom 2000. And finally it goes, doo-doo-doo, and it says, bzz, the stepping motors kick in. I hit the operate just as the guy says CQ over into Trinidad. And I gave him M0, MCX, and he comes back, fantastic signal, Callum. You're 5 and 9, nearly 5.9 plus. I'm thinking, this is really good. But it wasn't until the end of the QSO I realised I was driving 100 watts into the Acom 2000, which is about 1,800 watts. I honestly didn't know. But it was a mistake,
Yeah, 300 above your experimental license,
I know. I couldn't even claim that.
Oh, buying one, I think. That was probably the biggest cock-up I ever made.
Getting a licence.
Getting the licence, yeah. Meeting you.
Meeting me.
And then running into Jonathan down at Martin Lynch and Sons.
You know who your friends are, don't you?
The weirdest thing, or the stupidest thing I've ever done, if you like, was actually driving from my home QTH to work and transmitting into the local repeater and having a lovely QSO, and then realising when I got to work I didn't have an aerial on the car. So that was...
It's just an SO239.
Just the base.
Do you think it's actually possible to get a really thin piece of copper wire, right, and blast it with 1,500 watts and to see if it really would cut itself to resonance?
Yes, it does. I've actually done that.
Mike, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. And it'll just bang at the high voltage point.
No, it won't go. It won't just go bang like that, but you'll know if you cut it deliberately long, right?
Yeah.
And and you'll if it's far enough wire, you'll see hot spots where the high voltage or high current points are. Yeah, you certainly will.
You'll know when it's correct because suddenly the SWR meter goes straight to zero.
But I have seen it done. Yeah.
The problem is that they're only
not necessarily deliberately, incidentally.
About a month after I started, the 7300 had just come out, and I pick up the phone, and the guy on the phone says, "My 7300 won't switch on." Okay, well, what power supply are you using? Well, the one it comes with. It doesn't come with a power supply. What have you done? Well, I've put a 13 amp plug on the end of on the end of the red and black cable and plugged it into the wall. And I said, right.
What happens when people buy these really complicated SCDRs and something and then they arrive? I mean, do they just, like Mike does, spend hours on the phone with Gary trying to get it working? Is that part of the contract when you buy these complicated things?
There is a certain amount of that, and I do feel sorry for Gary. The number of times that Gary would just sit at his desk with his heads in his hands, just going, oh. The common one is a V2000 from Diamond, the tri-band
yes, 62 and 70. I've got one here.
Yeah, so have I. The number of people who put them together and then ring up the store and say it doesn't work. Did you remember to put the two bits of brass together?
Yeah.
What two bits of brass? Well, you kind of got to put the two bits of brass together, otherwise you're only using half the antenna. It would be a bit like buying a DX Commander and not putting the wires on the outside.
Or reading instructions, for instance.
I wasn't going to go there.
The instructions. Mike and I managed to buy some adjustable spanners the other day that were it's all 5/16 and everything, isn't it?
They were in AF, yeah. They were really good.
AF.
If you go to America, and I made this mistake of asking for a pint and then being served a glass about that big, and thinking, that's not a pint. That is not a pint.
Is that because a gallon's different?
I think so, yeah.
Roly showed me a picture of this
have I opened up a can of worms?
with four scaffolding poles coming out the water with a platform on it, and he said, that's a DX entity, you know. Hello.
That's Kingman Reef. Out in the Pacific, but that's a deleted country now because it hardly exists anymore.
Okay.
And then the one you're talking about, Callum, is that one there.
That's it, yeah. With bits of wood. That's a DX entity.
That's a Japanese island, Okino Torishima.
Is that David Hasselhoff sitting in the top of that?
Yeah.
With his goggles on.
That's it. There's a few like that. I mean, have a look on the internet and have a look at Johnson Island, for instance. It's a military air base, and all it is a runway right out in the middle of the Pacific for the American.
And that's it.
The American forces. So you miss the runway, you're in the drink.
Are you an overnighter when it comes to RF? Do you think you got your little baby now and your wife and everything? It might be hard, but are you going to be able to get like are you an afternoon man then? I'm not interested in how you made your baby, but
in front of the escort.
When are you? What is the ideal? What is the ideal day out? Andy Cowley, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, did you know that somebody actually said he's on every ham radio stream in the world?
I think he's the luckiest radio amateur as well, isn't he?
Oh, he won something? Didn't Andy, put it in the comments for us. He won, was it a T-shirt that I sent him? I sent him some stuff.
Not sure, but he's always first on every stream. Doesn't matter what it is.
And I was on one stream once, and somebody was going, "Hi Andy, hi Andy," and there was this innocent guy just went. You just asked a question like, "Who is this Andy Cowley bloke?" Right? Because somebody said Andy Cowley for the front cover of Radcom. Yeah. Jonathan, how many videos a month or a year? I mean, are you a once a month sort of man, or are you weekly?
I'm going to aim for weekly. It may slip to bi-weekly, but I'm going to aim for weekly.
Okay, fine. Mike and I actually. You guys keep sidetracking me. I don't know what it is.
No, you sidetrack yourself.
Oh, do I? Right. Did you know I've genuinely got ADHD and what they call ASD, which is autism syndrome disorder, right? I was actually just diagnosed 2 weeks ago. The psychiatrist has prescribed me basically speed, right? She said for most people it would make them a bit cuckoo. She said, I'm going to give you speed to slow you down. It's the truth. I've seen 6 consultants now.
What have you got? Sorry?
ADHD
Yeah.
and autism spectrum disorder.
Okay. And XXT and MCX.
And a bit of PQRS as well.
And QRM.
A lot of QRM.
Probably a lot of PMT as well.
Honestly, do you remember those? You'd put the transparencies in that casserole and casserole?
In the casserole.
The casserole in the oven. And that's the one. You remember, you would have little remote control. You hit the button and it would go, and the next slide would come out. You know, and you'd all be sitting there looking at some blooming slideshow. These before the days. Jonathan probably has never seen one of these, but anyway.
Is this related to an overhead projector?
Yes, sort of, but with the.
This is like a microfiche.
Anyway, so I explained, because she was really nailing me down on this. I said, well, I have these thoughts. Well, first of all, what did you know? Are you troubled by your thoughts? I went, no, I quite like them. So it's an old one, isn't it? But anyway, what it's like, apparently most people, if they've got a way of cataloguing their thoughts, they can bring a thought up. So you can bring a thought up, and then I could, concentrate on thinking, I wonder how Sharpie works, whatever, right? My problem is that I'll get... Sometimes it goes on auto shuffle. So it's very difficult for me to continue to concentrate on the same thing. Right? And also, what makes it worse is sometimes I'll get a jam. So I'll get one on top of the other. And I'll have 3 or 4 thoughts. It's just hard work being me. As
and the fan diaphone was born.
And the fan diaphone, yeah, I know.
I've just been reading some of the comments there, and I think some of these are brilliant. I like Kim Merritt's. He's got ADSL.
He caught it from BT, I noticed.
Someone else is suffering from VDSL. You've got to be careful of that, mate. You can get penicillin.
Ian says, Callum on speed. Oh, God. Get a special program on Discovery Channel. This guy is CDO, but it's like OCD, but alphabetised.
I've always thought that about OCD. It's not in the right order.
I got the phone right to Mike not so long ago. And Mike, being serious, I'm talking about these disorders, and they're not going to be able to do any of my autism, but they might be able to do something with the ADHD. And Mike just calmly says, "Well, I've got dyslexia. It's quite bad dyslexia, actually. Yeah, I got a little certificate thing that says you got dyslexia." And then he says, "Well, I think I've got dyslexia. I can't read it." Oh, this is nice. Don's saying he hasn't had as many laughs in a long time. Well done. So there's 2 Dons always here. Both Dons actually were sort of part of my channel crew when I was only on, 1,000 subs or something like that.
Yeah.
And they've been me through thick and thin. So it's absolutely fantastic. N5 SKT, the other Don, yeah.
Ukraine.
How do you pronounce that? The name of that place, though?
Malij Vyskrodnist. It sounds good. Well, that actually means, how old is your sister? JSX. I didn't hear that, but I'm guessing that is your call.
Yes.
All right. So Ham Bandit just says, before we go, ladies and gentlemen, I got my DX Commander mounted to my Chevy. Do you sell a bit of kit to keep the radials going over the hood, keeping out of the front tyres? You'll find if you just drag 10 radials about 20 metres long behind you, that normally works better, doesn't it?
Works perfect.
Yeah. I need to find a 10-mile road, right, where there's no trees coming over the top, where we can drive with a full DX Commander. Oh, and if we tow the generator, we could stick the ACOM 2000 in the trunk.
Oh, right. No.
If you're going to do that, you better make it a Nebula.
18 meters.
18 metre off the tow ball. Because I think it would be a great camera shot if I just come flying past at 70 miles an hour with this DX Commander. Okay, well, I can tell you something kind of rather beautiful. What happened is that in the morning, when I was really, really keen. I still am, but I'm keen in a different way now. I would put 80 metres on, right, and I would listen to this net at about, 7 in the morning on 80. And, there was Joe, Fred and George and whatever else. There was 3 or 4 of them. They were normally quite long overs. So I'd just be having my coffee, looking at the BBC News and whatever. And they were talking about, I'll call him Fred. They're talking about Fred. He's getting better and better and better, and he should be on the net again, like on Monday, right? So eventually Monday came along, and they were obviously halfway through their net, and Fred was next, and George, Fred's the one who's been ill, you see. George is chatting away, and he hands it over to Fred. Now, when Fred starts talking, he's obviously had a stroke. But these guys he speaks to obviously knew him so well that I actually couldn't understand what this Fred was talking about because it was kind of slurred speech and everything else. And it was kind of embarrassing for me until the next guy in the net picked it up. And, well, that's really interesting, Fred, he said. I've never had a shotgun licence. And they actually knew exactly what he had said. I thought it was beautiful. So from all of us here at DX Commander World Headquarters, Jonathan's place, the ZL crew, and Mike down in poor Gloucester. You got to feel sorry for Gloucester.
Yeah.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah.
Peace and long life.
Guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.